Hey guys, it's College Studios here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my 5-year plan for Six Flags Great Adventure. Now, I'm going to make it very clear before I get into any of this. This is all speculation, none of this has been confirmed. This is just kind of basing my predictions off the patterns we're seeing so far, and quite frankly, there's really no patterns to base this on yet. We're in a new era of Six Flags where they're headed by mostly Cedar Fair leadership, and figuring out what their next steps are with the park is very tricky, although they made a very big statement at the end of 2024 with removing so many rides, and that is definitely going to kind of make it seem like they're probably going to be replacing a lot of these rides and overall just investing a lot into the park. I also don't think those are going to be the only rides that get removed, so throughout this 5-year plan, I'm going to list what I think will be added, removed, changed. Nothing too minor. I'm going to be focusing more on the major things that'll be happening because there's a lot of little things that'll probably happen every year that you can never predict. We saw that be the case even in 2024. So this video is going to cover the years 2026 to 2030. And like with most prediction videos, the earlier years are going to be a little easier to predict versus the later years where it's pretty much a shot in the dark. Last year, I did a video like this for the years 2025 to 2029. I recently reacted to that. You can check that out before you watch this one if you want. Those predictions wound up being completely way off, even now, without us getting too far ahead. With the change in leadership and the changes at the park, there's a lot that is different now, to say the least. So we're going to get started right away with the year 2026. This is probably the one that's going to be the easiest to predict, and then going from there, it's going to be a little tricky. So 2026, I have a Mach Extreme spinning tower coaster to replace King Ka, as well as the removals or closures of Daredevil Dive, Slingshot, go-karts, and the Right Stuff building, as well as Movie Town and Metropolis being merged together to become DC Universe. I know it's a lot. Let's start off with the Mach Extreme Spinner. I know that not everyone is fully on board with or convinced that this is going to be the replacement for Ka, but personally, I just think this is the most likely one to happen. It just seems to make the most sense to me that this is what they're going to do, considering all the clues we've already gotten, and especially the fact that it was literally in the survey for coasters at Great Adventure. It just makes the most sense to me. So we'll see that. I don't know how much else they're going to do around the area. That's kind of a mystery to me. We don't really know the exact placement of the coaster. We don't know how far out the station is going to go towards what was the boardwalk, or how they're going to wind up theming it. I could definitely see the theming of the Golden Kingdom area stick and maybe extend out a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then my discussion points of Daredevil Dive, Slingshot, go-karts, and the Right Stuff buildings. All of those obviously are intertwined with the boardwalk. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if Daredevil Dive just doesn't reopen at all come the 2025 season. It might even be removed before the 2026 season. The other ones I think might stick around an extra year and then get removed. I think all of that is just going to pave the way to make the boardwalk area much nicer. I think it's no secret among park visitors and probably people that work there too that the boardwalk definitely is not the nicest looking area of the park and could definitely use the most investment in terms of revitalizing it a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what the new company is planning to do. Considering they already wiped out half of the boardwalk, I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of almost the rest of it and then redo it from there. And then Movie Town and Metropolis becoming DC Universe. I'd be surprised if that doesn't happen in 2025, and if it doesn't, then I'll put it on the docket for 26. It just seems like it makes the most sense to conjoin those areas together, since separating Movie Town and Metropolis really doesn't make sense anymore. They're all just DC characters with DC rides and everything. You could have the sub-areas of, say, Gotham City and Metropolis, but the whole area, in my opinion, should just be called DC Universe, and I think their goal is to try to consolidate all the DC rides into just that area, and now all they have left is Superman, Joker, and Harley Quinn that are not in the DC Universe area, so we'll see what winds up happening from there. But moving on to 2027, we are going to get a replacement for Green Lantern, which I'm predicting to be an Intamin or Vekoma multi-launch coaster. We'll get the first part of the major overhaul of the boardwalk, as well as a Skull Mountain refurbishment. So I do think that you guys might think I'm crazy for saying we're going to get a third coaster in a row in 2027, but it really does seem like the new leadership at the new company are coming in guns blazing with Great Adventure, and they want to get stuff built fast, and they want to build up the park to be more of a resort as quickly as possible, and the best way to do that is to pump money into the park with some new rides, especially considering they got rid of so many, they got to replace them. And I could see this ride either going where Lantern is or in the Northern Star Arenas plot, but I have something else planned for that plot a little later on. I think restoring the boardwalk and redoing it is going to be a pretty top priority for them, considering it's going to be pretty dead once a lot of these rides are gone. You're just going to have Superman and a couple of the upcharges if they don't wind up getting removed. So they definitely need to replace Green Lantern with something, and I could see that whole area kind of getting a retheme. We'll talk a little bit more about Superman specifically in just a bit, but I also think that Skull Mountain should definitely get a refurbishment, if not earlier, definitely by 2027. I don't know if they're going to get rid of it. I personally wouldn't be against them getting rid of it and replacing it with a new family coaster, but I could see them trying to save it, keep it around, redo it, do some of the effects over, and just make it a much better experience. And when I say boardwalk overhaul, I say that they're going to retheme the whole area and make it more cohesive, and we'll see a little more of this later on in what I'm predicting for 2028, which is, for starters, the Great Adventure Hotel will finally open, Boardwalk Overhaul Part 2 with some flat rides being added, Superman getting rethemed, as well as some thematic enhancements to the Pine Barrens / Seaport area of the park, as well as the closure of Medusa and the demolition of the Northern Star Arena. I know that's a lot to unpack. So for starters, Great Adventure Hotel, I don't have a specific spot where it would be. I still think the gas station is a great spot to put it, but they could really put it anywhere and have it tie in with the park. I think by then, Cedar Fair or Six Flags is definitely going to want a big hotel on property for the park other than Savannah Sunset. Savannah Sunset's a nice alternative, but it cannot be the only form of overnight accommodations on the property, so they're definitely going to want to get a hotel of some kind in as fast as possible. Boardwalk Overhaul Part 2, they're going to need to, again, replace the rides they got rid of, and the park is definitely going to be lacking a lot of flat rides by then because so many were removed, so they're definitely going to have to pump some more in. I could see something almost like Aeronautica Landing at Carowinds in the sense that there's just a bunch of new flat rides put together in one big area. Could definitely see them doing that with the boardwalk since there's so much room to work with over there. In addition, with the thematic enhancements to the Pine Barrens or Seaport area, I think that area could definitely use more cohesion, and Cedar Fair loves to have really well-themed areas at their parks, and I'm sure they're going to carry that into the Six Flags parks, and hopefully we'll see some enhancements to Nitro and the whole surrounding area as a result of what I'm predicting here. As for Medusa and the Northern Star Arena, that could come as a bit of a surprise with Medusa, but I do think that the new company is going to look at Medusa and see it way out in the back of the park, kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's getting older. It was built in 1999. It's not quite as popular as it used to be, largely due to its location, and they might think it's just better to completely redo that whole area as opposed to just keeping Medusa and reusing the Northern Star Arena's area for a new ride. So that leads me very nicely into 2029, which I think is going to be a Frontier Adventures overhaul where they're going to kind of thematically spruce up the area a little bit, and they're going to get some headlining rides with a new Vekoma tilt coaster, as well as an interwound family coaster from Vekoma, replacing both the arena and Medusa. And we're also going to see the Safari Station reimagined into a Savannah Sunset entrance, as well as the closure of another coaster, that being the Joker. So it's a lot to unpack. Let me start from the beginning. I definitely think some major marquee coaster has always been planned to replace the Northern Star Arena. They just haven't gotten around to it yet, and that's where I kind of tie back to what I said for 2027, where I could see that coaster either going in Lantern's plot or the Medusa/Arena area. Personally, I think they're going to want to replace Lantern first, since that's right at the parking lot. You can see it much easier than something like Medusa. Plus, doing this in the Northern Star Arena revolves around a lot more demolition, which they've already done a lot of, so they can push it off a little bit and then do it for this year. And I say a Vekoma tilt coaster and family coaster because they're going to need to have some family style additions in addition to the massive thrill coasters. And I think if they do get a Vekoma tilt coaster, it'd probably be a really big one, maybe around the size of Iron Rattler over at Six Flags Qiddiya, which is over 200 feet if I remember correctly, and then have a family coaster as well, whether that be something like Big Bear Mountain or something smaller like a family boomerang. I think that would work great, and they can retheme the whole area around it to kind of match that. As for the Safari Station, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it converted into a Savannah Sunset or secondary entrance into the park earlier than this year. This is just kind of there because it makes sense matching with the Frontier Adventures theme. And then you guys might be questioning why I have Joker slated for removal. Personally, I just don't see Joker lasting at Great Adventure that long, especially with the direction they're trying to take the park in. If you look at Cedar Fair's other marquee signature parks like Kings Island, Cedar Point, they don't have rides that could kind of be considered as like the cookie cutter clones like what Joker is. I still enjoy Joker, I think it's a great ride, but for what they're going for with Great Adventure, I just don't think it makes sense to keep it there. I think that they're going to wind up clearing out a lot of that lakefront area and use it for something much better, which we're going to see happen in 2030, where the whole area is revitalized. You're going to see the introduction of some of the shows coming back on the lake, which has been missing for a really long time now. And maybe, this is kind of just, throwing it out there, maybe we'll see a new coaster, maybe a B&M Wing coaster, B&M Surf coaster, maybe something from Vekoma or a different manufacturer. Since it's going to be so far in the future, we really don't know who they're going to be working with by then. And then just some overall thematic enhancements around the park. I think that would be a nice way to kind of iron up that area. Again, I do think that Joker is a good ride, but I don't see it lasting, and replacing it with something that's higher capacity, more marketable, and just overall a more premium style ride akin to something you'd see at one of the headlining Cedar Fair parks. I just think that makes more sense, and utilizing that lakefront space would make a lot of sense considering they really don't have any area of the park that uses it very well. You can't see the lake other than right on that path, and they don't use it for shows or anything, which I personally think is a big missed opportunity, and I'd hope to see them kind of capture that like they did way back when with all the shows on the lake. I thought that was always great, and seeing that return would be awesome. With all that being said, though, that is going to do it for my 5-year plan for Six Flags Great Adventure, or maybe it'll just be called Great Adventure by then, for 2026 to 2030. Like I said, the later years are definitely very much so shots in the dark. We still don't know exactly what the park's direction is really going to be. This is just going off the early signs that have come from the merger with the announcement of the new coaster, all the rides being removed. It seems like they're trying to clean house a little bit, get rid of the rides they don't want there for whatever reason that may be, whether it's popularity, maintenance, or a variety of other reasons, and replace them with newer, more reliable, high-quality rides. And I think that's going to be a trend we see happen for the next few years as they try to build Great Adventure up to what it should be. Back in the 90s, that park was getting crazy attendance, and they really haven't seen that post-COVID, and I think that they're trying to bring the park back to that, make it more in the style of Cedar Point, especially because they have so much space to work with at a property like Great Adventure. So hopefully we're going to see a new era of Great Adventure begin post-2025 and 2026. Sure, we might lose quite a few of our favorite rides from before the new era, but as long as their replacements are just as good, if not better, I think it more than makes up for it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of these kind of realistic, kind of not realistic predictions for the future at the park. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.